Namaste. Welcome to our monthly satsang. I've been looking forward to it. In fact, actually, I'm telling you literally, when I, excuse me, at the end of this satsang, I'll start looking forward to the next one. Because it's really nice. See, satsang means company with truth, company with reality. Well, obviously, enlightenment is the ultimate satsang. But being with people of like mind, that is spiritually oriented mind, is also satsang. And throughout India, people have gatherings in their house. Sometimes there's only 3 or 4. Sometimes there's 30, 40, even bigger. And they sort of share in the group aura of wisdom. And of course, when there's someone of a higher consciousness who's there to help, oh, that's even better. But it's very important. And of course, as yogis here, well, we're scattered out all over the landscape. And we're the only one of our kind, often. And so at least by the miracle of modern electronics, in America, we love to talk about the miracle of modern gadgetry, we're able to meet. So, namaste again. As you know, I usually do a commercial. After all, this is America. At the beginning. And so Kevin asks, when is your next book coming out? Can you give us any more details about it? Well, first, I want to mention 2 already out that I really, really urge you to get and read. This one first, this one next, because this is beautifully written. I mean, amazingly written. And just flows and presents these profound concepts so clearly. And this is more detailed. So it's good to get this, although this isn't elementary by any means, but then this is quite amazing. This was printed in 1902, and this in 1920. Can you imagine? They've been neglected that long, and they are real great treasures. All right, now, next books. Chronologically. Okay, Light on the Path for Awakening. There was a very interesting woman named Mabel Collins, living in England. She was a theosophist, and sometimes a bit of a rambunctious one. And she wrote 2 books that were very influential. One is called The Idyll, I-D-Y-L-L, of the White Lotus. It is a story of a young child, actually, in ancient Egypt, who was seen to be very, very gifted with clairvoyance, and therefore was taken and trained in clairvoyance and became a kind of oracle in one of the temples. It's fascinating. Now, this book was read by Egyptologists who were astounded at it, because it was the most perfect presentation of Egyptian culture of that era that they'd ever come across. And it was put on the reading list in universities in England, which had courses in archaeology. And naturally, there was so much attention. Media people came and they interviewed her, and they said, oh, what's your background and what did you study? She said, no, you don't understand. These are my past life memories. That was my life in the past. And in this life, that life surfaced in my consciousness. And I wrote it down. Now, in America, it would have been taken off the list immediately. Oh, it's a nut. But in England, they had more sense. And they thought, we don't care where she got it or how she says she got it. The book has value, and it stayed on the list. It's interesting. Interesting insight into the old world versus the new world. So anyway, she wrote that book, and I recommend it. It's very, very good, very, very interesting. It gives you some insights into how things were done. But she wrote another book called Light on the Path. That unattractive gray thing is because this is a proof copy. And God forbid that somebody might make 50 cents that the printers didn't make. However, we paid for this thing. So anyway, it is an interesting record of what she said she saw literally written on walls in a place which she often visited when she left her body, because she practiced what we call astral travel. Not something yogis recommend, but she did it. That was her business. So it has marvelous metaphysical message, some symbolism, but mostly just so brilliant and so packed with insight that it's good to have a commentary to lay it all out and make it more digestible, you might say. All right. Then the very latest is this. Excuse me. Vivekananda, The Crest Jewel of Discrimination. This is a book by Adi Shankaracharya, the greatest Vedantist India has ever had, who's worshipped by some as an avatar, actually. And this is a book that has various verses, it's stanza formation, with incredible insight. I didn't comment exactly on every verse because some just sort of restated what had been before and so on. But anyway, it's a magnificent book, I assure you, marvelous. And I'm trying to think. Sorry, I skimmed through. Anyway, I thought somebody asked what the next book might be, but if not, I'll tell you anyway. I am working and have worked for quite a while on a commentary on the four Gospels, putting them together so it's a continuous narrative. And I basically finished it, but I've got some more to take care of. Then, of course, I'll print it out and read it again for myself and have it proofread by somebody else also to make sure I haven't made mistakes. And that's very, very, very long. And I mean, it's very long. I forget how much it is, but it's a few hundred pages just in the computer pages that I'm reading off of in the computer. But it's good. I have, of course, analyzed everything according to the Greek text. And therefore, it's sometimes very important to know the full meanings of a Greek word, because one word can be used to translate it, but sometimes two or three words, because in ancient languages, often one word had several meanings. This is very much true in Sanskrit. Therefore, I've finally got it through, and we'll see if it isn't available by our next satsang, hopefully, certainly the one after that. All right, fine. So then, let me After all that, let me start. Um, can you explain what is the soul and in what of the bodies it is located? Well, here's our problem with English is we have a very vague vocabulary in metaphysical things because it's not a part of our culture. When in India the civilization was glorious beyond all thought, in Europe, people were living in caves, wearing bear skins, and beating each other over the head with clubs. Vivekananda did not hesitate to point that out occasionally when he was in the West. And people got very elitist and very supremacist in their talk. Then Vivekananda gave them a few what we call home truths. But anyhow, these ancient languages are very complex. They have many levels of interpretation, and it's meant to be that way. And therefore, commentaries have to try to encompass all of that because there are very profound ideas that can easily slip by us. Great masters especially, they just toss off a profound truth in a sentence that maybe took yogis decades and decades and decades to even discover as a truth. So, terminology, you said soul. You see, there's soul and there's spirit. Unfortunately, the way things work, even in Sanskrit, you have to say, well, when does it say soul? When does it say spirit? Well, it doesn't make a distinction. So they tend to cite the faculty which is ruled or dominated by the higher energies that would be called soul. And the spirit is the absolute self that is itself divine, is eternal, immortal, is a part of God, like a wave in the ocean. A wave in the ocean is 100% water, but it's not all the water of the ocean. So the Atma in every one of us, in every sentient being, even right now, we have squirrels running around in the trees. There's an Atma in every one of those. We have birds at our bird bath and the bird feeder we keep. The divine Atma is there. But it, of course, is, in a sense, sleeping. So, the spirit is the divine essence that will never change and does not evolve. The soul is the energy wrappings around the spirit, which are multi-level. So it's not just, the soul, a soul. No. These are the subtle bodies, the causal body, the astral body, and then, of course, the material body, which also, in a sense, has levels because bioenergy comprises one or two of the bodies. So, where are they located? Everywhere. They pervade the entire physical body. Otherwise, it couldn't exist. So we have many, many levels, many, many bodies. It isn't just 3 bodies. It just depends on which kind of psychic cosmology you follow. You can literally say legitimately 24 bodies. But anyway, the thing is, what matters is what is in your consciousness here. And that's where the higher part is there. The Sahasrara, the 1,000-petal lotus. The body itself, this has no ideas going on. And certain other levels of our bodies, They're keeping the heart beating. They're keeping the lungs moving. They are literally stimulating the division of the cells. And it's so incredible that it's beyond our comprehension. But they are all right here. And they are all, yes, certainly, there's an energy field extending beyond me and out. And that's the astral body, and beyond that, the causal body. But you understand, they're anchored in here. They are centered in here. So they extend out, but it would be wrong to say they're located outside. Hope that makes sense. But anyway, and you can experience that in meditation. You can experience that as you're kind of big, as if like, you're small. These are not experiences to look after because they don't indicate much, but it just shows the sensitivity. So you do experience in these various levels, or you may. If you don't, you still got them. All right, sorry. I understand that Krishna established the caste system. No, he didn't. It was established long, long before him by Manu, the great master progenitor of the whole human race. I have to look and make sure. This book has a commentary on relevant sections of Manu's book called the Manu Smriti, and which is often cited here. Okay. I would like to know why later avatars, but these people are not avatars to be named. An avatar is just a self-realized person. But let's not get into that. It means a descent, and it means a descent of divine consciousness. In a sense, you and I are all avatars right now. But when a person goes to the highest level and attains absolute self-realization, which, see, the wave is connection with the ocean, which also results in vast consciousness beyond the body and beyond just the individual consciousness. They're virtually an incarnation of God, and we call them an avatar. Okay. Why later avatars such as Swami Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, and Mahatma Gandhi opposed it? They did not. They opposed the misapplication of the ideas of caste, Varna Ashram Dharma. And it's based not on your birth. You see, in the degeneration, the caste system became a matter of birth. Your parents were this caste, so you're this caste. Absolutely not. In ancient India, a child was born. When he got the right age, he was sent off to a gurukula, to a school run by a qualified teacher, just both intellectually and spiritually, who examined them carefully and saw what they were innately. What was the configuration of their mind? What was the core of their personality, not the self, but the personality, which is something they've taken on to evolve through in this life. And then there were 4 major divisions, and they said, the child's this, is this, is this, is this. Is it? Not should be, has to be, but is it? And people had good sense, so they lived out accordingly. A caste was not given them. It was discovered in them. Now, there was a great sage in India, he was living in the 1960s, named Brahmachari Vishwanath. He lived in a suburb, Galgaon, of Calcutta. When people adopted Sanatana Dharma, he told them what their caste was. He could see it. And they officially took it up and followed How does a person know? Like us? Well, they just observe the description of the caste that's given in the Bhagavad Gita and what fits them, and they were that way when they were a child. Fine. Now, people can move from caste to caste, so the way you were as a child may not be the way you are now. And so, which are you? Well, you were that one thing then, and you're that thing now. I hope I'm not going on too long on this, but it is important. But the caste is a matter of personal nature and not society. See, you're a Shudra. You go mop the floor. Oh, you're a Vaishya. You go plow a field. See. Oh, you're a Kshatriya. Go join the army. Oh, you're a Brahmin. Study the scriptures. No, not at all. It was what they did spontaneously, what they were attracted to, which meant you could be of one caste other than your parents. For some reason, you had a karma with them, or you had a karma with the caste sort of milieu that then you were born into, and then you entered into what was really you. So this is a very subtle thing. It's a very tricky thing. And the thing is, you've been in every caste, but you've always been the self. So be a yogi and realize the self. That's what's important. So they opposed the unjust social system because caste is spiritual and psychological. It is not social. But obviously, according to your psychology, your inner makeup, well, you're going to do certain things. You like science and you study it, you make inventions and so on. Fine. Or you like tinkering with things. You like to take cars apart and put them together. Fine, then you do that. So it comes from inside out. And they opposed the stratification. Don't touch me, I'm a Brahmin. You're a Shudra, go away. No. Ramana Maharshi even faced this. Can you imagine? That they did Vedic chanting daily in Ramanashram, and there are people who said, the Shudras are not supposed to be allowed to even hear the Vedas. You're committing a sin by reciting the Vedas. Well, see, ignorance is always with us. And what do you think Bhagavan Ramana did? He just went on. You see, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, when the elephant walks down the street, the little dogs bark, but the elephant keeps on walking. So we should be elephants in our own spiritual life and just keep on walking when the people go yap, yap, yap off to the side. They don't have anything else to do, so let them entertain themselves. So this is what they oppose. I do not say they all had perfect understanding. Mahatma Gandhi did not. He didn't know anything. I'm sorry to say more and more of this is coming out of his, not just limitations, but of his extreme negative personality and the great negativity of his fanatical ideas. There is a website called Dharma Dispatch. I was thinking of making a sign and holding it up to see Dharma, D-H-A-R-M-A, Dispatch, D-I-S-P-A-T-C-H. Dharma Dispatch. They have many, many interesting postings on this site, a few of which have to do with Gandhi, and one of which talks about all the people who died because of his fanatical and extremist ideas, while he sat and just gave out with his nonsense that was considered wisdom. I know that seems heresy, but more and more as India breaks out of the colonial bondage on their mind, and he was a slave of the colonials, they're beginning to realize that. May seem naughty, but it happens to be nice. The truth. There is no dharma higher than the truth. That's a Sanskrit maxim. Therefore, don't take anybody's word for it, and certainly not mine, including about this. You think it over, if it makes sense, good. If it makes no sense, forget I said it. Okay. Second question. The main purpose of the Gita's discourse is to convince Arjuna to go to war. However, it is said in chapter 12, he who agitates not the world, and whom the world agitates not. Isn't going to war a way of agitating the world? Which battles are worthy of being fought, and which are merely agitation? Thank you. Well, take a far wiser person than I to give you a full answer on that. The thing is this. The Nazis were agitating the world. The fascist Italians were agitating the world. The fanatical imperialists of Japan were agitating the world. And we stopped it. And it was called World War II. Therefore, war can bring peace. But it has to be a righteous war. And that's, you see, Krishna doesn't say all wars are right. All wars are good. Just fight, you're Kshatriya. No. But he said this is a righteous war. And therefore, you fight it. And then there is peace. Varnashram Dharma, when the warrior follows their Dharma and protects the world, then everything is right. There's nothing wrong with war. There never has been. Hinduism has, yes, the 4 castes, and the Brahmin caste, the spiritual teacher caste is one. Right underneath it comes the Kshatriya caste. They are also keepers of law. They would be judges, legislators, so on. That's Kshatriya. And then there were those that fought and knocked the enemy's heads off. And that was righteous too, if it was their true dharma, if it was their true varna, their true caste. Otherwise, it was very wrong. And you and I aren't going to be able to straighten out the world on this, I'm afraid, but so it is. So, which battles are worthy of being fought? The ones that further dharma truly do, not just by you and my private opinion. And there are others, well, it's murder, even. There you are. What can you say? All right. I was born a pacifist. I live like a pacifist. In school, I used to let bullies beat me up and never hit back and never protest and never go tell teacher. But that was my varna. I utterly and totally respect those that go and fight. See, again, better is your own dharma than the dharma of another done perfectly. Better do yours imperfectly. So people of each caste need to have respect for those of others. All right. Do all religions and wisdom traditions all lead to the same one truth? And if so, what is that one truth? No, they don't. None of them lead to it. They're just ideas. They're philosophies. They're explanations. A lot of them are speculations. But I've just told you, read it. Why did I do that? Because they explain a frame of reference and present a correct frame of reference in which you pursue the real truth. And as the Upanishad says, Tat Twamasi, you are that. Self-realization, that's a purpose for all of it. There's nothing in Dharma that is not meant to result in self-realization. You are the truth. Find the truth of your own self. not philosophy, not all kinds of speculations. And this is very, very important. So the self is the truth, and what leads to the self? Soham Yoga Sadhana. Not the Upanishads, really, and not the Gita. They give us a context in which to become yogis and be yogis. But without yoga, it's like an automobile with no spark plugs and no fuel. So of themselves, they don't lead to the truth, but they can foster a search to the truth. And some are lies. Christianity is mostly hellish lies. Buddhism is hellish lies. All exoteric religion, including in India, they are hellish lies. Only the spiritual esoteric aspects are the truth. And the thing that really leads you to the truth is the inner desire and the inner impulse of your own true self to do so. Thou art that. Nothing will reveal the truth to you but yourself, because you are the truth. You are the divine Atma. The divine Atma has a name, Soham. The divine Atma only lives in your body because of lives in the body because of your breath. Inhale, exhale. So on the inhalation, all your inner bodies vibrate to it, even if you don't hear it. And hum when it goes out. So you link yourself up with those levels of your being. When you intone so when you inhale and hum when you exhale. And you do that both through the day, and then you sit and you let yourself really get deeply aware. That will lead you to that, and nothing else will. You can get near it. You can get near to a fire or an object will get singed, but only when it's in the fire does it completely get transmuted, because that's what fire really is. It's a transmuting thing. So, this does it. Hinduism provides a logical, rational framework that supports yoga sadhana. If it didn't do that, it wouldn't be true. So when I say read these books, it gives you a rationale. Why are you a yogi? Why do you meditate? Why is it like this? In other words, all other religions say, shut up, don't think, just believe and say, oh yes, dear Lord Jesus and your divine mother and all this nonsense. No, you've got to know. And yoga is the only way to know. And these tell you the reason why and your subtle makeup and how to go about it. Especially, of course, this one. Okay? Really gone on and on about that, haven't I? All right. Do we need a master to give the Soham mantra? No, not at all. Where's my Soham Yoga? Anyway, read the book on Soham Yoga. It's inside you. It wasn't even implanted in you. It is you, because it's a part of all relative manifestation. Every atom in this thing is vibrating with Soham. It's inherent in everything. So, also, the Shastras say, the Indian Shastras, say that, of course, you see, we've been born many times. We started out as an atom of hydrogen, and look where we are now. So you came into the womb, and you were there, and you were conscious. We think we have a very odd idea about consciousness. We think that it's physical movement, it's physical activity. Oh, he's really lively. And so we think that that embryo is in there, doesn't know anything. It's just a lump. So we can kill it if it becomes inconvenient, some devilish people think. And so it's there. But it isn't true. It's fully conscious, and often it knows its previous lives. The trauma of birth, like traumas in life, often erases those memories. It usually does. But it's there. It's fully conscious. In fact, it came and got in the body. Angels didn't come and shove it in the body. Oh, this is too long to go into. I apologize to you. I'm taking this on. Anyway, we read various books that you can see. So we came in there and we were living in there. We knew, in fact, our mother's thoughts were not distinct from ours. We thought what she thought, we thought, we thought. What she experienced, we experienced. And we couldn't distinguish the two of us at that time yet. But in the seventh month, something awoke in us, or a force came outside, whichever you want to say. And we became aware, because you see, the breath is an interior thing, only manifests in the lung expansion and contraction. So breath's going on all the time. A yogi will experience this. And therefore, the child becomes deeply aware and becomes aware of the movement of the inner astral breath and the sound, and it is revealed to him. You can read this in what the Shastras have said, or in light of Soham, there is discussed by Sri Gajanana Maharaj. And God, in a sense, teaches us or initiates it in the womb. And we understand Soham is a way, but when we come out of the womb, we start to cry and go, hua, hua, which is a version of Koham, who am I? We forgot the answer. So God's already initiated us, but way beyond that, from eternity, it's been the inmost thing we have because it's inseparable from ourselves. So nobody, you do need to learn it because you have never heard of it. You can learn it from a book. You can learn it from a piece of paper. You can learn it from hearing about it. And then you do it. All this, see, the self, the self, the self. But the ego doesn't want you to know the self. So the ego says, you need a guru. And then you, oh, Guruji, you're my soul. What would I do without you? Oh, you're beyond this God for you. Oh, Guru, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. He's all those, Utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Thou art that. You're not secondary to anything. So you need to learn somehow. And you can pick up a book and read it, or a piece of paper, or someone can tell you. And that's it. And you should be very grateful to them and consider that you owe them a great debt because, just as you wouldn't be able to read and write if your first grade teacher hadn't taught you how. You owe that teacher a great debt. But most, Soham. All right. If you had it in a previous life, it can pop up even. But then you'll say, well, how do I know it's not imagination? So your karma will bring into your orbit either a person that knows it or a book that tells it. That's for certain. Okay. Do you pray asking for things or only do Soham? Well, that's up to an individual. Soham's purpose is enlightenment. So we all have to have other goals, and so we do it on ourselves. Ishwara is real, the personal God. Ishwara is here responding. And you can certainly say, oh, God, help me to do that. And you can get a response. A lot depends on karma too. Like, did you pay attention to God in various past lives? Then God pays attention to you, or can pay attention to you. If you've ignored God, you've created that, and you've created a shell around yourself, and you can think you're talking to God, but it just echoes off your aura, and you haven't managed. But, so be a yogi, be a yogi, be a yogi. So, of course, you pray for that. You pray for people and ask for blessings. And it works. Prayer changes things. We used to have that as a little motto as Protestants. We hung on the wall. But it's true. But it should be enlightened prayer. And it should be a yogi's prayer. At least that's what I recommend. Explain the intersection of the physical world and the higher world and how to sensibly navigate in it. Well, these things are very subtle, and only the yogi perceives it and knows it is true. So I could just tell you, people love to read books that just reel out theories. There's so many worlds, and there's this and that, and then they say it with very great assurance as if they knew it, and they don't. Most religion is just feverish nonsense. So, be a yogi, you'll perceive it, and you will then have an illumined intellect to tell, by which you yourself will know how to indeed, wise word you put, sensibly navigate it. Yes. Okay. All right. Swami Nirmalananda talkie, because he has much more to go. All right. This is a question about doing Soham yoga, and says, I find it more natural and easier to intone hum. Sorry, it says hum, especially when I'm doing japa throughout the day. Let that be as it just comes natural to you as you're with your breath. You may find when you're doing it, like now, that is one way, and then as you meditate and it gets deeper and deeper, then it changes. And the U and the M may become longer or not, and let it be. What happens? Just check. That's why the book is good. Just keep checking the instructions, and if you're doing it right, nothing to worry about. Your own self is leading you onward. All right. I wonder if you'd be willing to share any thoughts you may have on the teachings of Emmanuel Swedenborg. If they entertain you, read them. If they don't, don't. For me personally, they're totally worthless. They're just mostly mediumistic effusions, in my opinion, but why should that be your opinion? All right, yes, of course. No, the great master said there's not reincarnation. Well, do what you want. Believe what you want, disbelieve what you want. Who cares? And don't think you've got an obligation to explain anything to people like that, because they're doing what they want. It says in the Bible, a friend is joined to his idols. Leave him alone. Leave him alone, okay? And yes, about they go to their own kind and so on. Forgive me, just not interested in discussing this fantasy. I'm not sure I want to race down this rabbit hole. You've got it. It's a rabbit hole. And you're not a rabbit. So don't go there. Yeah. Thank you for your monthly satsangs, but thank you for coming to it. It's a wonderful thing. I don't see you, but you're out there. And you've got an operative brain. And I value your questions because it shows your thinking. The only stupid question is the unasked questions. Never hesitate. Okay. In the book From the Finite to the Infinite, Swami Muktananda advises his followers hum with the inhalation and so with the exhalation. I find this is interesting. There is one person, an utter lunatic, who claimed to be his disciple, who likes to quote a letter he supposedly got from him, which says it this way. But the man was crazy, so who knows? Now, Soham Yoga is also called Hamsa Yoga. Hamsa means swan, you see? So it's called the flight of the swan. And in Soham Yoga, you'll find long quotes from Pandit Sri Ram Sharma. And his book, which is about saying so hum, is called Hamsa Yoga. So people sometimes mistake this. But Swami Muktananda Ji definitely taught so hum. Okay. I mean, look at all the quotes I've got in the chapter on masters and scriptures on Soham. Were Buddha's original teachings atheistic? No, Buddha was a Sankhya yogi. He was a very classical Hindu. And his spiritual teachings are based on yoga, on Sankhya. So much so that various Buddhists, especially Thai Buddhists, have even done some commentary on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So, but the God most people worship, fortunately, does not exist. The Christian God does not exist, thank heaven. The horrid Muslim God doesn't exist because they're just fever dream hallucinations. They're not the true God. Now, if they call out and say, "Oh God, may I know you?" and since we're all a part of God, the real God will answer. They'll say, well, Christians find out, Buddhists and Muslims find out. Of course they do, because God responds to them. But if they keep going further, one day they're going to know, I don't want to just paddle a canoe. I think I maybe need to cross the ocean with a far bigger vessel. And that's Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism. Oh, narrow-minded, you bet. On that, that's it. Talk about self-concept. I'll reveal you mine. First concept, number thing, I'm a yogi. Second, I'm a Sanatana Dharma. And then everything else comes on from there. I don't say you have to be that way, but that's how I am. So that's how I talk. It'll never change. Okay. So, yes, well, you see, everybody likes this, I'm a Buddhist, because it means I don't have to believe in God, I don't have to do anything, and ultimately we have to be moral. Buddhist morality is strict. My goodness, it's extremely strict, real, true Buddhist morality. But not with the I'm a Buddhist, you see, because they don't know what it is. I remember back in the yoga boom, half the people were strung out on marijuana and LSD and other things. And they'd say they were heavy into something because their minds were so weak. If they read half of a paperback book, they thought they were heavy into it. And so people say, I'm really into Buddhism. And they say, oh, well, which have you read and so on. And then they look at me like, what do you think you're pulling? Because they haven't learned anything. But it's a nice excuse. I'm a Buddhist. Remember did you watch Absolutely Fabulous? Ab Fab, the British comedy? And the major character keeps saying, I'm a Buddhist, darling, to her daughter. And of course, she'd gone to, I think, a couple of weeks course by some Tibetan, and all she did was ring a bell and go and say some kind of gibberish. Of course, it wasn't real Tibetan or Sanskrit, but they're like that. They drove Vivekananda crazy. We've mentioned him about it. Oh, Buddhism, and so one time he was walking around New York, and up comes someone and says, "Oh, sir, are you a Buddhist?" And he said, "No, ma'am, I'm a florist." And he walked on. Yes, he didn't take any crap. Let me tell you something about a yogi. A yogi has integrity, and part of being of integrity is self-respect. And a real yogi doesn't put up with anything. They can just avoid what they think is nonsense, or they can quietly ease themselves out the door. I have many times. But if they're faced with it, then they say, "What a pile of horse crap, even if you're telling me it's tutti frutti ice cream." You can't push around a real yogi. They won't tolerate it. They don't hit you, but they just say, "Sorry, no." And you have to be like that. I've seen it done. I've seen little wimpy people who practice genuine yoga, and finally, and they were pushed around by everybody, and finally nobody could push them around anymore. They didn't get mad, but they say, "No, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it. You do it. Don't tell me to do it." That was it. I knew a woman who was utterly, not physically, but psychologically abused by a hideous monster. Well, three hideous monsters, actually. Her monster husband and her monster children. And she learned how to meditate. And I've taken up your time so long I won't tell the story. I love the story about she had one of her daughters was a psychology teacher. Oh boy, at Davis, University of California, Davis. And let me tell you this, I like it. I'll try and make it quick. And so she said, "Oh, my daughter's coming home. When she comes home, it first is everything's fine, and then she starts blaming me about all her problems." Okay. Well, I didn't tell her what to do. She was a yogini, and correct grammar, and she was doing her stuff. So let's see what was inside her. Well, okay. She said, I'm dreading, say a prayer for me. I maybe did, I don't know. It'd be nice to claim I did. So anyway, then I saw her, because I think the daughter came for 4 or 5 days. So I saw her next week. I said, "How were things?" She said it was wonderful. Wonderful. I was in the kitchen working because she was a kitchen drudge, you understand, for her family. And she was working, and in comes the daughter. "Hi, Mom, hi, Mom." And she said, I said, "Hello." And she said, "Mom, aren't you glad to see me?" She said, "No, I'm not at all glad to see you." "Why?" "Because you've come in, you always come in exuberant like this. You've discovered the psychological opening practice. You found the new therapy, and you're just zooming. And oh, yeah, and you let me know how wonderful it is, and at last you got it all cleared out, and yeah. And in 3 days, you'll be standing right here in this kitchen, boo-hooing and saying, 'You ruined my life. Because when I was 8 years old, you slapped me just once.'" Maybe that was the problem. She only slapped her just once. And she said, "I don't have any time for this crap." You do. You have nothing else but yourself to talk about. So I'm not glad to see you, and I will be glad when you leave. A mother talking like this. Well, The girl straightened up. She didn't pull any of that crap. And when time came to leave, she hugged her mother and said, "Thank you, Mom." Okay. So that's the way to do. One day, if I'm in the mood, I'll tell you about the Swami divorce case, because I was brought into court because I had brought about a divorce. Could it be so? No, it was the good sense of my yoga student that brought about the divorce. It was interesting. All right, what do you know? We've got to hurry on, though I'm enjoying this tremendously. What do you know or have heard about Swami Sivananda being married before he was a Swami? Oh, yes. He was married. He had a child. He was a doctor. His family name was Kupaswamy. He lived for a while in Malaysia, practiced medicine. There was a terrible fire, and his wife and child were killed in the fire. And he returned to India, and in time took sannyas in Rishikesh at the great ashram called Kailash Ashram there. And the rest is the way it was. What is the best way to dispose of old broken malas, rudradksha and tulsi? Well, first of all, if they've just broken the string, you can get them repaired. Usually any jewelry store has someone that knots pearls and things like that for them. And that's what we used to use before we finally learned. In India, Anandamayi had myself and another monk taught by one of the members of her Banaras ashram to tie the knots, and from then on, then we knew what to do. But before that, we got someone through a jewelry store to do it. And also, you see, you can string rudraksha beads on metal with eye pins, and so we learned how to do that and did that also. So that's what. Now, if there's something wrong with them, or you think they're irreparable, what do you do? I would go to a place where people don't walk. Fortunately, we're living in a forest. So we just go out somewhere and go to the root of a tree, dig a hole, and put the beads in it, and that would be the end. No, nothing would ever disturb them. Wild animals don't want to dig them up, and bugs won't eat them. So they're there. That's the best thing. But if you can get them repaired, that is very, very good. All right. Okay, told about the book. Whenever we're making a decision in our life and when our priority is to realize God, what should we consider while taking or making a decision at social level? Well, of course, the spiritual part should be the prominent part, and should have the priority. But a lot of people do very wrong and sometimes very cruel things by saying, well, I'm being spiritual and I can't help it if my family or my friends don't understand. So, friend, narrow is the way and narrow is the gate that leads to life, as Jesus said. So you are walking a thin line. And as much as you understand of Dharma, apply that. But also understand that you have a duty to the people around you. Now, I'm getting a cold feeling saying that, because how many times I've heard people say, married people, well, I made this commitment before I ever became a yogi, so I can't be expected to do that, like being a vegetarian. No, too much to cope with. So use your own judgment, meditate, then use your own judgment. That's All I can say, because not knowing your situation, well, it would be irresponsible for me to do that. But there is number one. We say, oh, number one, you are number one. You're the self. What is it? Not what inconveniences yourself, so don't do it, or what pleases yourself, but what truly benefits yourself. Then do it. If you make a mistake, try over and do it, and do it right. Okay. Yes. Oh boy, this is the final one. You often reference Yogananda. Yes, it was an incredible teacher. Can you talk about how to make sense of the fact he said so many helpful, profound things, but then also passed on the kriya that seems to be more fake yoga? Or is it just that some of what he offered was true and some was distorted? A1 truth. Okay. Now, first of all, stay away from the original Kriya Yoga people. They never know it. I'm speaking by experience, okay? Both in India and here. The original Kriya Yogis, they're usually just a bunch of self-satisfied, dissatisfied bullies, okay? So stay away, run. Now, they don't know the real thing. And there's nothing wrong with pranayama, but that's all it is. And you're not prana, you're chaitanya. And you use your breath in its natural way. If you distort your breath, you don't have a hope. I'm serious. It's a corruption of the breath. It's a perversion of breath. Bhastrika, all this kind of stuff, Kapalabhati and so on. Don't do it. The breath is a delicate mechanism and you can ruin your nervous system with these idiotic breathing. I'm not telling you that somebody who's just prejudiced because I don't do it. I have known people do it. I have seen people. I've seen people become a neurological ruin and through things like the Kriya Yoga. Quite seriously, I am telling you this. And one thing I'm telling you, another thing that can happen about it, I've seen it, a direct path to alcoholism. Now that sounds really fanatical, but it's true. And I've known people that said, ooh, I used to take a lot of drugs. Then I became a yogi and I'm a Kriyaban and so on. They all went back to drugs. They all went back to drugs. People I thought would never do such a thing. But it was because you need to know the self. And all it does, it can make you psychic. Yes. It can give you the ability to see visions. It sure did to me. I could tell you the phase of the moon, even. Oh, yes. I knew all kinds of psychic gimmicks and things. I knew how to work for healing, but I didn't know one bit about genuine yoga. And finally, I realized, thank God, I realized and thought, but am I wrong? And Anandamayi Ma said to me, this body, because she didn't say I, has never advised anyone to do that practice because Raja Yoga deludes its practitioners and they get just a touch of what they should experience through sadhana. And then they think they've attained greatly. But in time, these are exact words, it evaporates and it leaves them empty. But I've seen people who had permanently twitches because they were damaged from the practice. But Ma said that very plainly to me, very plainly. So, There you are. But you know something? You're not Yogananda. I'm not Yogananda. Why he did it, how he did it, and so on. When he spoke wisdom, he spoke wisdom. It should be believed. But he also said a lot of silly things, and I'm not going to go into that. Chanting is half the battle. First of all, finding God's not a battle. But he'd say half the battle. This is half the battle. That's half the battle. Well, you only have two halves of something. He had about four things that were supposedly half the battle. A lot of it was just hype. You see, Raja Yoga affects your emotions. And therefore, they're big into, oh, Divine Mother, and the tears come, and they're, oh, yeah. Bliss bunnies. I love that term. I knew some people, I forget who they were. Obviously, they were cynical like me. And they coined the term bliss bunnies. And Self-Realization Fellowship was really a collection of bliss bunnies. Dear people, lovable people. But when you're gung, you're gung. Isn't that a cruel thing to say? So, but as Jordan says, he says that bliss will ultimately left me in distress. Absolutely. Messes you up. And you don't think that it could mess you up because it's yoga. And also, Master said do it. You know something? I mentioned Anandamayi Ma. I think she was a manifestation of infinite consciousness. I don't do a single thing she told me because she told me to do, and I don't believe a single thing, though I've just cited her. My experience has taught me. And that's exactly what she intended, people. She often would refuse to answer questions or tell because she knew that people should find it out for themselves. And so, yes, as you see, the Soham sadhana fixed it all. It's forgive me. I'm thinking about the juvenile enthusiasm when I was a kid, and I say it's really keen. Well, it's really keen. In Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, if you've seen the movie, they say it's smashing. It's wizard, meaning it's magical. It's keen. It is. It's smashing. It's wizard. It's keen. It smashes the delusions. It does work miracles in your subtle levels and in your being. And the result is just keen. So I think we have covered it all. Thank you. They say there are people that love the sound of their own voice. So you forgive me, and just remember, Command Q is the way to end the suffering if it is annoying. So until next time, thank you, thank you, thank you for these questions. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience. When I'll talk a little bit more about myself. Everybody likes it. When I was 9 years old and in fourth grade, my desk was toward one of the walls in the side. And I sat there and I turned and looked around. I'd say we were, it's hard to know. It was a small school. Somewhere between 15 and 20 students. All of which I knew because it was 450 people in the town. We all knew everybody. So anyway, I sat there and I looked at them and I said to myself, because I've been talking to myself for many years, these people are sane. And I'm not like them. So I'm not sane. I must be crazy. I'm very serious. This isn't just a yarn I'm telling you. And I thought, should I do something about that? Should I start trying to be more like them, act more like them, maybe think like them? Really, should I? And I really thought about it. And finally I thought, and I love it, was something marvelous and philosophical, but it's not going to be. Here's what it was. I thought, I am having more fun in my life than anybody I know, and better than anyone in this room. So I'm staying crazy. And I'm not kidding you, that solved it. I've never bothered with the question for the rest of my life. I once went to a federal reformatory to talk to a study group there that somehow heard about me and asked me to come and speak to them. And one of the inmates was obviously a very anxious person. And at one point, he said to me, "Well, don't you ever worry that you might be out of your mind?" And I assured him that I was out of my mind and that it didn't worry me in the least because I'd been at it for decades. And I'd enjoyed myself thoroughly all the way through, although as all life, there's ups and downs. So then, thank you very, very much. I hope we will be meeting again. Namo Namaste.